introduces Leela, the quiet and gentle girl of Willow Creek, and sets the emotional tone for the entire story by showing the simplicity yet depth of her daily life. Living in a small cabin on the outskirts of town with her widowed mother, Leela has grown used to carrying responsibilities far beyond her age. The loss of her father left an unspoken heaviness in the home, and Leela tries to fill that silence with kindness toward her mother, toward neighbors, and especially toward the injured animals she often takes in. She is the type of girl who notices every fragile thing: a bird with a broken wing, a fawn trapped in barbed wire, a child crying behind the mercantile. Though she rarely speaks loudly or draws attention, she helps in quiet, consistent ways. The townspeople see her, but more the way someone sees a soft breeze or a gentle snowfall pleasant, but easily overlooked, while other girls her age attend barn dances, laugh with friends, or dream of marriage. Leela's world remains small and isolated. She spends her evenings tending the fire, mending clothes, or reading old books her father left behind. Her life is filled with routine and small acts of goodness, yet she sometimes wonders if there is more to the world than this quiet existence. It isn't that she dislikes her life. She loves her mother deeply, and finds comfort in the rhythms of their days, but a part of her longs to feel seen, valued, and understood. She dreams of a moment where her courage might matter, even though she has never had the chance to prove it to herself or anyone else. Part 1 shows how Leela's softness is both her strength and her struggle. She is caring, patient, and reliable, but her gentle nature keeps her out of the spotlight. This opening section hints that beneath her calm exterior lies a reservoir of bravery waiting for the right moment to surface. It quietly foreshadows that her life, which she believes will remain ordinary forever, is on the brink of being changed by a single act of courage she never imagined she would be called to make. Begins with a shift in atmosphere, moving from the quiet warmth of Leela's daily life to the chilling tension of a winter morning that feels different from all others. The day starts peaceably, enough snow dusting the fields, a pale sun struggling to climb the horizon, and the familiar creak of Leela's cabin door as she steps outside with a bucket in hand. But beneath the stillness lies a sense of unease. Leela has always been attuned to the sounds of the land, able to distinguish the whisper of wind through the pines from the distant cry of a hawk. Yet on this particular morning the air feels heavier, sharper, as though the world is holding its breath. She begins her usual chores, bundled in her worn winter coat, when suddenly a noise cuts through the frozen silence, a frantic, desperate shout carried faintly on the wind. It's not the voice of someone calling to a friend or herding cattle. It's the unmistakable cry of a person in danger. Before she can process it, another sound follows. The low, bone-deep howl of wolves. The kind that sends fear rushing straight to the heart. Most people would run the other direction, seek shelter, or call for help. But Leela's instinct is different. Her kind heart and lifelong habit of helping anything in need push her forward instead of back. She drops her bucket, grabs the nearest thing she can, uses a lantern, and begins to run, slipping through the snow as fear and determination battle inside her. She doesn't know who is out there, but she knows someone is fighting for their life. This moment reveals the depth of her bravery, a courage she never had reason to test before. The winter landscape becomes both her enemy and her witness as she pushes through the biting cold. The howls growing louder, the cries more desperate. Part 2 marks the turning point where Leela steps out of her quiet, invisible life and into a moment that will forever alter her destiny, driven by nothing more than her instinct to help, even at great risk to herself. Brings the story to its first moment of true danger as Leela finally reaches the source of the cries she heard in the distance. The snowy clearing she stumbles into feels eerily silent for a heart beaten till she sees him. A young cowboy, badly injured, cornered against a fallen log, while 3 gaunt wolves circle him with predatory intent. His horse, panicked and trembling, stands a few feet away, unable to help its rider. The man's coat is torn at the shoulder, and blood stains the snow beneath him, evidence that the wolves have already attacked. His breathing is ragged, his eyes sharp with fear and pain, yet still fighting to stay conscious. Leela freezes for only a moment, overwhelmed by the sight. She has helped animals before, even chased off a coyote or two, but this is entirely different. This is a life-or-death scene, and the life at stake is human. The wolves, half-starved from the harsh winter, move with tense, hungry steps, prepared to strike at any moment. Leela knows she has no weapon strong enough to fight them. All she has is her lantern, her voice, and the sudden surge of courage that rises from deep inside her chest. She doesn't think, she acts. With a shout that shocks even her, she charges forward, swinging the lantern wildly. The unexpected burst of light, noise, and movement startles the wolves, confusing them long enough to break their formation. Firelight flickers across their eyes, and instinct drives them to retreat into the tree line, pausing only to snarl before disappearing into the forest's shadows. Once the immediate danger passes, Leela rushes to the cowboy's side. Up close, his injuries are worse than she imagined, but his expression shifts from fear to stunned disbelief as he realizes this small, soft-spoken girl just saved his life. He tries to speak, but pain pulls the words from him. Leela steadies him, helping him to his feet and guiding him toward his horse with a gentle strength he didn't expect. This moment marks the first true connection between them, a bond formed not by words but by bravery. Risk, in the desperate need to survive, deepens the emotional connection between Leela and the cowboy by slowing the pace and allowing both characters and readers to breathe after the life-or-death chaos of the wolf attack. As the wolves scatter, the cowboy finally gets a clear look at the girl who saved him. He expects to see a strong ranch hand or a seasoned hunter, but instead finds a gentle, almost fragile-looking young woman with snow in her hair and fear still trembling in her hands. This contrast shocks him. How could someone so quiet and unarmed have such fierce courage? His eyes, though clouded with pain, soften with gratitude and disbelief. When he tells her, in a voice barely above a whisper, "You saved my life," it is not just a statement, it is a recognition of the magnitude of what she has done. Leela, embarrassed by attention and overwhelmed by adrenaline, brushes away his praise and focuses instead on helping him stand. She learns his name, Chase McAllister Rand. Though the name means nothing to her at first, the sincerity in his voice stays with her. His injuries are severe: a torn shoulder, bruised ribs, and a deep gash across his forearm. He can barely put weight on his legs. Leela quickly realizes he won't survive without shelter and care. With no hesitation, she slips her arm round him, supporting his weight as they slowly move toward his frightened horse. Chase, who has spent most of his life relying on no one, is humbled by the way she steadies him, gentle yet determined, as though his survival is the only thing that matters. The journey back to her cabin is slow and grueling. Chase tries to stay conscious, but pain pulls him in and out of awareness. Each time he falters, Leela reassures him in a soft, steady voice that surprises even her with its strength. This part highlights how their bond begins, not with romance, but with trust. Chase learns to lean on someone for the first time in years, while Leela discovers courage she never knew she possessed. The moment they reach the cabin marks the beginning of a connection that will only deepen from here. Two lives brought together by danger, kindness, and fate. Shifts the story into a quieter but deeply emotional phase as Chase begins recovering inside Leela's warm, humble cabin. After the terror of the wolf attack, the calmness of her home feels almost unreal to him. The cabin is small, with hand-stitched quilts, shelves lined with herbs, and a wood stove constantly burning to keep the winter cold at bay. Everything about it reflects Leela herself: simple, soft, and filled with quiet care. As Leela tends to Chase's wounds, her hands are steady, showing a skill that comes from years of caring for injured animals and tending to her mother. She cleans the cuts, wraps bandages, and brews her own herbal mixtures to ease his pain. Chase, who is used to patching himself up roughly out on the range, is struck by the gentleness in every movement she makes. For the first time in a long while, he feels safe enough to let his guard down. The days pass slowly, marked by small moments that reveal both characters more deeply. At night, when pain keeps him awake, Leela quietly reads to him from one of her father's old books or hums a tune she hasn't sung since childhood. Sometimes Chase wakes to find her dozing in a chair beside him, having stayed up to make sure his fever doesn't rise. Her mother, though cautious at first, sees the sincerity in Chase's gratitude and allows him to stay as long as he needs. In these days of healing, Chase begins to understand the depth of Leela's kindness. She doesn't help expecting praise. She helps because it is simply who she is. Meanwhile, Leela finds herself surprised by how easily Chase's presence fits into her world. He listens when she speaks truly. Listens in a way few people ever have. Even when he's weak, his eyes hold warmth and respect. Part 5 emphasizes the birth of a quiet, unspoken bond between them. Their connection isn't born of grand gestures, but of shared moments, simple conversations, exchanged smiles, and the gentle trust formed when one person allows themselves to be vulnerable and the other answers with unwavering care, marks the deepening of the bond between Leela and Chase, shaped not by dramatic events but by the slow, steady rhythm of shared days and simple kindness. As Chase regains his strength, he refuses to remain just a guest or patient. He wants to give back to the girl and the home that sheltered him. The moment he can stand without pain, he steps outside to help with chores. Even though winter's grip still lingers over Willow Creek, Leela tries to insist he rest, but Chase only smiles and tells her he's been idle long enough. His presence brings a new energy into the small cabin. He fixes the fence posts that the last storm knocked down, chops firewood to fill the storage shed, and repairs the loose shutters that had been rattling for months. Each task is done not out of obligation, but from genuine gratitude. Lila, who has spent most of her life carrying burdens in silence, begins to feel something she hasn't felt before: lightness. They talk while they work, and Lila discovers that Chase is more than just a cowboy passing through. He has a quiet humor, a deep respect for the land, and a surprising gentleness behind his rugged exterior. He listens to her stories as though each word matters. In return, he shares pieces of his own life, his long days on the trail, his loneliness on the open plains, and the way he never felt at home anywhere. But with Leela something shifts. For the first time, he feels rooted, seen, and understood. Their bond grows through small, intimate moments. Chase brushing snow from her hair after they return from gathering firewood, Leela helping him lift a heavy beam when his shoulder still aches. The two of them sharing warm bread by the fire as dusk settles. Neither of them speaks of feelings, yet something unspoken hangs softly between them, a gentle warmth, like a promise waiting to unfold. Part 6 shows how connection is built not only through grand rescues but through everyday acts of kindness, revealing that sometimes the strongest bonds are formed in the quiet, ordinary moments that heal the heart. The emotional turning point of the story, the moment when the stability and warmth Leela has grown used to suddenly vanish, leaving her with an ache she cannot hide. As winter loosens its grip and Chase grows strong enough to travel again, the day she has quietly dreaded finally arrives. Chase saddles his horse in the early morning light, the sky pale and cold, as though reflecting the weight in Leela's heart. She stands in the doorway, trying to appear calm, her hands twisting in her apron as she watches him prepare to leave. She knows she has no right to ask him to stay. He is a cowboy, a drifter, a man who belongs to open skies and wide fields, not small cabins and routines. Still, the thought of him riding away leaves her feeling as though the world is shrinking around her. Chase senses her sadness, though she tries desperately to hide it behind polite smiles and gentle goodbyes. He thanks her mother for her hospitality, then turns to Lila with a softness in his eyes she has grown used to but never fully understood. "Thank you," he tells her, his voice low and sincere, "for saving more than just my life." The words puzzle her, yet she's too afraid to ask what he means, afraid of hoping for something he may not be offering. She simply nods, forcing herself to stay composed even as her chest tightens. When Chase mounts his horse, silence settles heavily between them. Leela stands very still, watching him ride down the snowy trail until he becomes nothing more than a dark spot against the white horizon, and finally disappears completely. The moment he is gone, the cabin feels different, emptier, quieter, too quiet. Leela resumes her chores, but everything reminds her of him. The repaired shutters, the neatly stacked firewood, the chair where he once sat while she changed his bandages. She tells herself she should be grateful he survived, that saving him was reward enough. Yet beneath that thought lies a sorrow she cannot shake. Part 7 reveals how deeply she has grown attached to him, even if she never allowed herself to admit it, and sets the stage for the emotional surprise that awaits her in the final part. Delivers the story's emotional climax as Lila's quiet world shifts from heartbreak to unexpected joy. Days pass after Chase's departure, each one heavy with the ache of his absence. Though spring begins to thaw the land, Lila feels colder than she did in winter. She goes about her chores like before, yet everything reminds her of him: the repaired fences, the tools he organized, even the way the cabin door no longer creaks because he fixed it. She tells herself he is gone for good, that cowboys don't stay rooted anywhere, and that she should be grateful simply to have saved his life. But deep down she mourns not just his leaving, but the connection she had never dared to name. Just when she begins to accept that their worlds were too different for anything more, she steps outside one morning, and freezes at the sight before her. Chase, riding up the hill toward her cabin. At first, she thinks she's imagining him, but he dismounts, holding a small bouquet of prairie flowers, early spring blossoms he must have searched long and hard to find. His voice trembled slightly when he says her name, and in that moment, Leela realizes the truth. He didn't return out of obligation or gratitude. He came back because something in him couldn't stay away. He explains that in the days since leaving, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was riding in the wrong direction. For years he'd wandered the plains believing he belonged nowhere. Yet with her he felt, for the first time, like he had found a place he could call home. His confession is gentle but filled with sincerity as he takes her hands and asks the question she never imagined hearing. If she would allow him to stay, to build a life with her, to become her partner, or out of debt but out of love. Leela, overwhelmed, finally feels seen, valued, and chosen. Part 8 completes her journey from an unnoticed, lonely girl to a woman whose bravery and kindness changed someone's life, and her own. It is the moment all her quiet courage is rewarded, and the story's promise of love, gratitude, and destiny is fulfilled.